On a cold October night in 1992, 17-year-old Sarah Whitfield clocked out of her shift at the Silver Moon Diner, and vanished. No body. No evidence. Just a girl who walked into the darkness and never came home. In this story, we're stepping into the shadows of one such disappearance. A case that investigators still whisper about, families still grieve, and a community still cannot forget. If you stay with me, you'll feel the weight of a mother's tears, the obsession of a detective who couldn't let go, and the chilling truth that sometimes evil hides in plain sight. Because when a young girl named Sarah Whitfield vanished in 1992, the world she left behind cracked wide open. And in those cracks, the questions only grew darker. It was August 14, 1992, in the small town of Cedar Creek. A place where everybody knew each other's names, where the streets grew quiet at dusk, and where danger was something you only saw on the evening news, never in your own backyard. Sarah Whitfield, just 17, worked the late shift at the town's small diner. She wasn't a rebellious teenager. In fact, she was the opposite, a girl who dreamed of becoming a nurse, who spent afternoons reading library books, and who cared deeply for her mother and younger brother, Daniel. That night, Sarah's shift ended just after 10 p.m. She tied her apron, grabbed her bag, and told her coworkers she was heading home. The walk was only 15 minutes, past the train tracks, through the dimly lit streets, and into the safety of her family's modest home. But Sarah never made it back. By midnight, her mother, Linda Whitfield, was pacing the living room, glancing at the clock every few seconds. Linda told herself that maybe Sarah had stopped at a friend's house, or maybe she'd lingered at the diner. But by 2 a.m., dread settled in like ice. Something was wrong. When the sun rose, the Whitfields called the police. And for the next 48 hours, Cedar Creek became a town frozen in fear. The case fell into the hands of Detective Mark Ellison, a man who had seen his share of robberies and assaults but rarely a missing teenager. From the beginning, the investigation felt off balance. There was no scene of struggle on Sarah's path. No dropped belongings. No signs she had run away. Neighbors reported seeing Sarah leave the diner. One man claimed he saw a figure trailing behind her, but the details were vague, just a shadow under a flickering street lamp. Then came the whispers. One name kept surfacing, Richard Hale, a neighbor who lived 3 houses down from the Whitfields. He was known for being odd, reclusive, always lurking around the edges of town life. People said he drank too much, muttered to himself, and spent long nights pacing his porch. Detective Ellison interviewed Hale. The man was in his mid-30s, wiry, with a stare that felt more like a warning than an answer. He claimed he'd been at home that night. No one could confirm it. Yet, without evidence, Ellison's hands were tied. The days turned into weeks. Search parties combed the woods, volunteers scanned the riverbanks, and police dogs traced faint scents that led nowhere. It was as if Sarah had been swallowed whole by the night. Life became unbearable for Whitfields. Linda, Sarah's mother, stopped sleeping. She sat by the window each night, staring out as though her daughter might suddenly appear on the sidewalk. Her once warm, lively home turned cold, every wall lined with Sarah's photographs. Young Daniel, just 12 years old, carried his sister's absence like a ghost. At school, he avoided questions. At home, he tiptoed around his mother's grief. In the quiet, he would sit in Sarah's empty room, clutching her books as though they might bring her back. The community tried to move on. But for Linda and Daniel, time only made the silence heavier. 5 years later, in 1997, a new lead surfaced. A railway worker, clearing brush near the old tracks, found scraps of fabric tangled in the weeds. A small blouse, faded and torn, and not far from it, an old locket with the initials SW. Detective Ellison rushed to the site. His heart pounded as he carefully bagged the evidence. Was this Sarah's? Was this the clue they had been waiting for? The blouse was confirmed to be hers. The locket too. But no remains were ever found. For Ellison, it was both a breakthrough and a torment. The discovery proved Sarah hadn't simply run away. Something terrible had happened. Yet it gave no closure, only more questions. And the suspicion circled back to Richard Hale. He had moved away from Cedar Creek in 1994, vanishing almost as suddenly as Sarah had. Authorities tracked him to another town, but once again, no evidence tied him directly to the crime. The case remained open. And the years marched on. Decades later, the file still sat on Detective Ellison's desk, long after he should have retired. He admitted to colleagues that Sarah's case was the one that kept him awake at night. He would reread the witness statements, revisit the old maps, and drive past the diner as if Sarah might walk out, apron tied, ready to head home. For Linda Whitfield, years cut deep lines in her face. She became known in Cedar Creek as the woman who never stopped searching. She attended every town hall meeting, every memorial for missing persons. She said once in an interview, "People think time heals. It doesn't. It only reminds you how long they've been gone." And for Daniel, Sarah's brother, her absence shaped his entire life. He grew up with unanswered questions, carrying both guilt and rage. He once admitted that as a boy, he wondered if he could have saved her somehow. The disappearance of Sarah Whitfield remains unsolved. But the story isn't just about her vanishing, it's about what her absence left behind. It's about a mother's undying love, a brother's silent grief, and a detective's refusal to let go. It teaches us something universal, that justice delayed is not just justice denied, it's a wound that never heals. That behind every headline, every missing poster, is a family broken, a community scarred, and a question that may never find its answer. And maybe, the deeper lesson is this: evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it lives next door. Sometimes it walks the same streets as we do. And that's what makes it so haunting. Sarah Whitfield's story is one of countless disappearances that still haunt investigators across the world. Cases left in the shadows, waiting for truth, waiting for closure. But as long as we remember these names, as long as we share their stories, they are not truly gone. So if you believe stories like this should never be forgotten, share this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more true crime stories that matter. Because remembering isn't just honoring the past, it's demanding justice for the future. This story is a fictionalized true crime narrative, created for storytelling purposes. Any resemblance to actual persons or events is purely coincidental.